Hey, what's up, folks? Realtor Chris Hall. Today, let's just talk a little bit more about what we're seeing going on in the market. There's a lot of talk, even more than in the last few videos, where people are talking about the market is going to crash. The real estate market, let's fix that. The real estate market is going to crash. And I still am holding true. I don't really foresee it happening, right? And there's a few different reasons. So I don't really have a skit. Usually I write down some notes, but there's actually nothing here. So this is all just kind of going to be off memory and some of the stuff that I've seen over the years and some of the things that I have thought would come to fruition, and I'm seeing that now. And so let's dive into it. So the first thing is, let's talk about the interest rates. Yesterday, I saw a video, and I forget where it was, but it was a fairly popular individual. I'm not going to say their name, but they have millions of followers on YouTube, and a lot of people go to them for information. It's not a real estate individual, though. It's not like somebody that really knows the ins and outs of real estate. It's more of a political commentator, but I really like their show. With that being said, they were talking about interest rates are up around like 7 to 8%. That's not the case. That is definitely not the case. As of yesterday, I reached out to two different lenders I work with, and they said that they're looking at about 5 to 5.5 for a 30-year fixed mortgage. And there's some different things in there. You can buy points down, and a lot of people don't know that, if you put down 25% on a conventional loan, you can actually get a little bit better interest rate than if you put 20% down versus a 10% or 5%. So there's a lot of different variables that go into that. Here's another thing that I'm not hearing anybody talk about. So many people are talking about the fact that the market has just shot through the roof. And that's true, it has. But one of the big factors that makes right now, because it's unprecedented, there's a lot of stuff going on that really nobody knows for sure what to think of it. But one thing that is 100% different now versus in 2008 is the fact that in 2008, you had a lot of people buying homes that should not have been buying homes. So you had people that were buying homes that had 0% down. They rolled all their closing costs into the home. So then when the market shifted and they had to sell, they had no equity. What I've seen for the past, I would say definitely the past 2 years, but really for quite some time now. Well, actually, let's look at it this way. Let's say for the last 2 years, let's look at everybody that's bought a home since the market has gone up over the past 2 years, right? So those people, most of them put down a pretty decent chunk of money. So most of the buyers that I saw that were coming into my listings or buyers that I was representing, the vast majority of them were putting down at least 10%. And then when we were submitting offers, the vast majority of the buyers were putting appraisal waivers in. So let's say you had a home that was listed for, I'm gonna use round numbers because it makes it easier for me. Let's say you had a home that was listed for $450,000 and the winning offer was $500,000. And let's say that appraisal came in at, let's say 460. So list price was 450, contract that won the bid was 500,000, and then the home appraised for 460, and the buyer had to make up that difference, right? So the difference between 460,000 to 500,000, the buyer had to make up the difference. And that buyer was putting 20% down. So they have a lot of equity in the home. So if they have to sell, they're not going to get foreclosed on. I mean, do you really think the market would, let's say that home turns out to be worth, well, I can't do the math quick enough in my head, but let's do it up here somewhere, right? So they bought the home, they put 20% down. So let's say they owe this much on the home. Do you really think the market is going to drop if that home sold for 500,000 down to the point to where those folks would have to do a short sale or a foreclosure? Probably not. The reason also for this is there's so many people that are banking on another 2008. There's so many investors, there's so many individuals that are just waiting for the market to crash so they can buy up a bunch of real estate and turn it into rental properties. Because a lot of people made a lot of money from about 2008 to about 2010, buying up homes and holding on to them for a short amount of time and flipping it. Like if you bought a home and if you bought a rental property in 2008 and sold it in, let's say, 2019, pre-pandemic, you made a lot of money off of that. So the people aren't necessarily, the folks that are looking for that opportunity are really excited about it. And I just feel if you have that many people looking to take advantage of an opportunity, well, the opportunity is not going to arise because that affects the whole supply and demand of the properties. Now, here's another aspect, which does kind of scare me, because if this happens, this would make a crash of 2008 look like a walk in the park. But I noticed in North Texas, in about 2015, I started seeing a lot of investors buying up properties. And I didn't know much about it, but fast forward to now, I've learned a lot about it. And then, a lot of these companies are owned or at least partnered up with large corporations like BlackRock. There's another one that slips my mind right now. There's also a lot of people or a lot of investors that are supported by overseas investors like SoftBank and companies of that nature. Right now, depending on where you pull the numbers, let's use Dallas County, for example, because I don't care where you are in the world, you probably know what Dallas, Texas is. In Dallas County, anywhere from what I can see, anywhere from 48 to 52% of the properties are non-owner occupied. Now, what that means is if you own a rental property, you're a non-owner occupant, meaning you're the owner, but you don't live there. It's a rental property. So let's just say, like the numbers I can pull, anywhere from 48 to 52%. So let's just say 50% of those properties are being rented out right now. If interest rates shoot up to 8 or 9%, nobody's going to be able to, well, some people will, but the majority of people will not be able to afford homes because the prices have gone to such amount that they're at. And I always hear people too say, well, back in the 80s, interest rates were like 16%. My grandmother owned a brokerage back then, and she talks about this too. But even she's passed now, even she was smart enough to understand that, yeah, but back in the 80s, you could buy a really nice house for like $120,000. So that's a moot point to me. I can't stand when people use that. Well, you're back in the 80s, interest rates were 18%. But yeah, you could buy a badass house for like $80,000. So get out of here with that nonsense. But what I'm seeing is if interest rates do shoot up to 8, 9%, less people are going to be able to afford homes. Therefore, they're going to need a roof over the head, so they're going to have to rent. So approximately 50% of homes, and we're using Dallas County right now, are rental properties. Then that means the investors are going to have renters in the rental properties. As long as things doesn't get so bad to the point where just people aren't making not mortgage payment, but making their rent. So as long as there's people in those rental properties, these corporation, whether it's a corporation or somebody like me who just owns a few rental properties, we're not going to be so inclined to sell our properties because we know long-term real estate's a good investment, right? I didn't buy my rental properties to sell them in 2 or 3 years. I bought my rental properties so I can use it as a retirement. It adds to my portfolio. These large corporations are using these properties and they turn them into REITs. So they're not going to be so inclined to sell the properties. On the other side of that spectrum though, let's just say a lot of these large corporations decided to dump their homes on the market. That could be really bad. That could be very, very bad. But I just don't foresee that happening because those folks are not in the business of buying high and selling low. So if the market slows down, I don't think they're going to be inclined to start dumping their properties on the market as long as they're creating cash flow. So those are some of the big reasons why I see people saying what could cause a market to crash. These are the reasons why I don't see the market crashing. Everything I just listed, and to be quite honest, I can't remember everything I said in the specific order because I am just kind of going from memory right now. But these are the things that I'm hearing a lot of people saying. These are the reasons why I don't think the market is going to crash. It is going to slow down, but I just don't foresee an all-out crash for some time because of those reasons right there. And really, it just boils down to supply and demand. I don't care what's going on with the interest rates. I don't care what's going on with the stock market or anything else. Real estate is 100% affected by supply and demand. So all those other factors go out the window if the supply is low and the demand is high. Now, there's a few other things I want to go into, but I'm going to wrap this video up. I'll save it for next time. So as always, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.